instructed by Shubham sir over here to Arun. Please check your internet connection. Also try to rejoin. If not, try to just swipe the screens across so that you will be able to see different views that are there for this meeting. Okay? So be specific. Don't write recently, in last months, last year, this happened, etc. etc. For example, if you are asked a question based on the decision on electoral bonds for that matter, okay, you should not state that 3 months ago Supreme Court gave a judgment on electoral bonds, right? In March 2024, Supreme Court came up with a decision which in a way did away with electoral bonds. Try to be specific wherever it is possible. If you don't know, then definitely you can write like this. But if you know, be specific. For example, if you know a particular data point that the level of literacy is this much, the level of dropouts is this much, etc. If you know exact percentage, write like that. If you don't know, if you have a general idea, then write around 5%, around 10%. So write word around if you don't know specific, so that you are clear that you also don't know specifically, but you have an idea that it is around 10%, it is around 20%, etc. But if you know specifically 21.7%, write it like that. Don't use around or such particular indicative words over there at least. Okay? And however we are specific, it is automatically going to increase our marks if we are going to be more specific for that matter. In body, there are various kinds of structures that you can use. For example, there is this point format, first point, second point, third point, etc., etc. So in body, after introduction, you can just write a statement. Let us look at the features of dash dash mission, dash particular equipment or technology, etc., etc. Whatever it is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or reasons of a revolt, whatever it is. Okay, write 1, 2, 3, 4 points. That is also possible. When to use point format? In many of the answers, you will be required to use point format. Whenever you have too many points, whenever you have many different aspects that you need to present in front of the examiner, definitely make use of point format, because it gives the variety of opinions, variety of perspectives and dimensions that you have considered. And examiner can enlist, examiner can see the numbers and see how many dimensions you have covered. So present it in that particular manner and it is entirely all right. Now, Vaibhav Gundane scored rank 25 in his first attempt itself. He cleared at the age of 22 itself, and he got into IFS because his first person was IFS few years ago. Okay, so it is his answer copy that I'm just trying to showcase to you. See the kind of presentation that he has done, how he has underlined few of the points which are of importance, etc., etc. Try to replicate such good practices across these different topics that I'm showing you. Subheading format. 2 or 3 years before, Junaid Ahmed scored rank 3rd in the entire country. 3 years before, I guess. Okay? So subheading format is also possible. Infrastructural reforms, these many. Okay? Then there are various other exclusion services. Okay? Then he has written diversification. So write main point as subheading and then write multiple different sub points under that subheading. Okay? So it gives you again a structured format and it shows that you are thinking from this point and you have gone into depth of that point. The next point gone into depth of that point as well. Okay? So when you have multiple different dimensions, you can present in subheading and then subpoints format as well. That is also entirely allowed and many students have done that over the years. Then paragraph format. There have been many students. Like for example, in 2019, that is 2020 result, this Kanish Kataria scored rank 1. At that time, he scored that rank 1 majorly because of his mathematics optional score. He had scored 361 in mathematics optional for that matter out of 500. So it was gigantic score for that matter, which in a way excelled him to that particular rank. But if we see how he has written. Now, when to use paragraph format, that is directly we are writing without having any points, subpoints, headings, etc., etc. That is also possible. When to do that? Okay, you can use mix of formats in one single paper as well. That some of the answers you are writing using paragraph format, some of the answers you are writing using subheading heading format or points format only. That is entirely okay. But when to specifically use this is what I would recommend when you have less number of points in your kitty, when you don't have lots of different dimensions to cover, or when some question is from GS4 like topics, wherever some philosophical aspect is being discussed. At that time, we can't break it up into various different subpoints. We have to try and explain. We have to try and add various examples. We have to try and add various different points of explanation itself. At that time, use paragraph format. That becomes handy. Okay? Or when you don't have a lot of points, but you have to fill up your 2 pages, then paragraph format becomes handy. Okay? Because you can write something which might not make very much a big sense as such, but it will just fill up the space. Okay? So that is the way to go about it. But as far as possible, try to avoid this paragraph format because it will take a lot of time for you to write. Because point format, subheading format will end up taking some space on the page, which will make you cover the paper very easily in short amount of time as well. Paragraph format will take a lot more time as compared to other formats. Okay? Got this point? Use the words in the question in your answer, break the questions in parts and subparts and address each part subsequently. For example, now the slogan minimum government, the same question that we saw. Okay? I have taken the same question to analyze this. What you have to do is that parts and subparts and address each part appropriately. Now, first part is about minimum government, maximum governance. Second part is about emphasis on minimum government. So write emphasis on minimum government. Okay? The words in the question itself, and then write how it has been emphasized, whatever you want to write. Then next subpart, in recent past, certain lags in maximum governance noticed. There have been lacking. They have been lagging behind in some of the parts. Okay? That part of the question where lacks effort on maximum government. Okay? So she has given that as well, and maximum governance, sorry, and she has written those particular points. So make all these sub points very much clear in your answer, and they should reflect that you are writing about this. You should not assume that directly without writing this statement you jump to RTI, A, etc., etc. It will not make it clear why you are writing this. Write this statement. It will make the examiner also feel that you are on track. Using the words in the question, like here, emphasis on minimum government. Here, emphasis on minimum government. It makes the examiner think that, okay, oh, now you are covering this dimension. Okay, this dimension is also covered. So he or she feels that you are on track. You are not going away from the topics. You are sticking to the topics, and that is going to bring you lots of marks. I hope you are getting the clarity from this. Okay. Then after this, don't be factually wrong. Don't be factually wrong in years, mentioning specific names of specific persons, scholars, or a particular person who has given that particular theory, etc., etc. Don't be factually wrong. Okay? Interesting examples from newspapers, try to include those as much as possible because of the fact that what has happened over the years. Now there has been too much of various different kinds of contents that are available, notes that are available, and there are specific few notes that students end up studying from for mains, for prelims, etc. For mains, what happens is that if in a given classroom there are 60 students who are writing mains, actual mains examination, there would be at least 40 to 50 students who have referred to similar kind of material, similar kind of notes for all those different topics. And that's why their points are going to be of repetitive nature. And when I, as an evaluator, I am going to check those particular copies, I am going to get bored by those particular points. It is natural human tendency. And that's why if you're reading newspapers on your own, automatically you will be able to connect the dots. You will be able to recall various examples that might not be there in the printed or ready-made available notes in the market. That's why to bring in novelty, to bring in innovative aspects, also to bring in new, fresh ideas and perspectives, you have to use your own earned knowledge rather than just copy pasting something from some random notes. Okay? I'm not saying that don't use those notes. Those notes are also to be used for various different subjects that we will detail, which notes to be used, which notes not to be used, etc., etc. During our sessions, we will be discussing those as well. But make it a point to have some sense of originality in every answer so as to earn that brownie point. That half mark, that 1 mark in each and every answer will excel your performance in that particular paper by at least 10 to 15 marks, and that is going to give you a large edge. That is what we are seeking. Half a mark, 1 mark extra in each and every question that we are writing. That is going to make you go in the list or make you go out of the list. Okay? So that's why we have to try and include these interesting examples, some success stories as well. For example, what tends to happen is that many of the times, because of the fact that news itself, whichever kind of news is there in TV, in social media, or in newspapers for that matter, news itself has got that kind of negative character in it. Many of the times, negative news only gets highlighted. And that's why we end up writing more in negative ways. That's why we also end up writing more in negative ways. That's why we have to try and be on the lookout for positive aspects, be on the lookout for positive changes, maybe in social sector, maybe on governance side, maybe on the side of administration, maybe someone who has done something spectacular in a particular district, in a particular village, that can be replicated throughout India. These kinds of examples can be helpful in GS1 society part, GS2's governance part, GS3's internal security, cyber security part, or GS4 entirely for that matter. Okay? So these new aspects, fresh ideas, fresh perspectives, something innovative, something good happening at some place which can be replicated, something at the international level in some other country, someone has done something spectacularly on internal security for that matter, how we can replicate that in our country, if we can connect the dots. So we have to be open in our approach to the world whenever we are doing anything for that matter. We have to try and learn as many things as possible and try to relate that with our syllabus and with our points, so that we'll be able to write it in a particular manner. Okay? So you have to try and add value to your answers wherever it is possible. Mention important report names before writing some recommendations. They have to be there necessarily from that particular report as well. Okay? You don't need to just randomly give name for your recommendation of some report. That should not be done. Okay? But Niti Aayog's 3 years action agenda, some ARC report, there might be some report by world's bodies like World Economic Forum, like World Bank, like some other organizations for that matter. Whatever it is, try and write those. Okay? Because what happens is that if you are writing recommendations without naming from where it is, it might show as if these are your recommendations, and examiner might say, who the hell you are to give recommendations to the government? You are just a student right now. That's why you have to try and refer it to some organization, some respected, some established, someone who is renowned, some scholar, some expert in that subject, etc., etc. Because that particular areas have those authorities, those experts, those reports, etc. You are not going to have that much authority as compared to these particular organizations for that matter. It does not mean that you should not suggest anything innovative on your own. Okay? So after listing out such recommendations, you can say, you can write that apart from these, I think that these aspects will also help increase the performance of India in these aspects. So you can put your opinion definitely, but try to make it a point that you are aware, show that you are aware about various scholarly people, various global organizations who are working day in and day out on that topic, and you know what they are requesting, what they are suggesting, what they are recommending. You know that, and you are trying to add your own points as well, and then you are going to try and come up with some important solutions. Because of the fact that now understand that you as an future administrator is going to be required to deal with various issues facing society, economy, international affairs, political situations, etc., etc. And that's why you should be solution oriented rather than problem oriented. Okay? We have to understand why of the problem, then only we'll be able to solve the problem. But that solution has to come across, because if something has been asked and you are just listing out various negatives of that, various disadvantages of that, various challenges in that, it will show your cribbing attitude. That should not come across. You should be knowing disadvantages, you should be knowing the challenges, but you should be also knowing the solutions to overcome those challenges and disadvantages. That will show your problem solving attitude, because as an administrator, while checking the papers, they are looking at future administrators who are going to go into the service to change the situation, not just going to the service and cry on the situation. That is not your job. And they are trying to look for those particular aspects. That's why your wisdom is going to lie in representing your problem solving attitude for that matter. Try to substantiate wherever it is possible. Give various acts like right to information. Use various reports like ASER report, which is about, ASER report is about the level of education, the quality of education. Then ease of doing business. It is about how business can be done in a better way. Now this has been discontinued for that matter. If there is some scientific report, some scientific question, try to refer to Nature magazine and various such important magazines, etc. Try in GS4, you have to refer to 4th report of second ARC. It is going to be like mandatory, because they have mentioned various recommendations in such a substantial and such a thoughtful manner that on each and every aspect, be it corruption, be it integrity, be it probity, be it accountability, they have suggested something or the else. That's why you have to make it a point to write those particular things. Okay? Try to use innovation in structure rather than just using heading, subheading, or point format. At times use SWOT analysis. In some of the questions, you can write differentiation directly, this and that. You can just make 2 columns and write various points in that particular format as well. Okay? So try to innovate, because what is going to happen is that if each and every paper is only having point format, that examiner is going to automatically, because he is also human, she is also a human, tends to get bored. That's why you have to try and keep them happy, keep them entertained. That is going to automatically give you half a mark extra, 1 mark extra in some random question. Okay? SWOT analysis is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. 4 points. For example, what happens is that if we are writing a particular question, what is India's position in terms of manufacturing hub of the entire globe? Is India manufacturing hub? Is India factory of the world? Something like that, for example. Then what you can do is that India's position in terms of manufacturing sector is like below. Strengths. What are India's strengths? Weaknesses you can write. Then opportunities. Now China's economy is going down. That's why there is a huge opportunity for India to catch that. Then threats. Even though China's economy is going down, it might be temporary. That is one of the threats. There might be other threats as well. So list it down. So try to use innovation in such structures is what I'm trying to convey. I hope you are getting the point and how you can innovate it accordingly. Okay? Can we write a historical background? Divya was asking. Yes, we can write, but make it a point that the historical background is for historical background only. That should not become the main point of the answer or major part of the answer. Okay? That should be limited to 1 or 2 statements, not more than that. Okay? Generally speaking. If there is a particular question about historical background itself, then you have to go into detail and you have to write for sure. Okay? I mean, first year, I have no English medium background, so how to improve writing skill for UPSC? I can't write English properly. I can only understand. So Rahul, what you do is that try and listen to English as much as possible. Try to read in English as much as possible. Try to understand, try to read. Even if you're not understanding something that you are reading, still try and understand the entire statement, even if you are not knowing a particular word for that matter. ठीक आहे? असं असेल तर तू त्या प्रकारे तू समजून घेण्याचा प्रयत्न कर. त्याचबरोबर काय कर की काही चांगल्या इंग्लिश सिरीज पण पाहायला लाग राहुल. जशी की फॉर एक्झाम्पल फ्रेंड सारख्या सिरीज असतील किंवा काय असतील ज्या हलक्या फुलक्या पण आहेत आणि ज्याद्वारे तुला बाबा काही गोष्टी चांगल्या समजतील सुद्धा. सो यू विल बी एबल टू रिलेट विथ दोट पर्टिक्युलर वर्ड्स ऑफ द लँग्वेज अँड यू विल बी एबल टू इम्प्रूव्ह युअर इंग्लिश. बट कॉन्स्टंट प्रॅक्टिस ऑफ रीडिंग, writing, listening and thinking in English is going to help you. Akash is saying, can we get this PDF after the lecture? I will try, Akash, to send it. My handwriting is good, but I write slowly. You have to try and practice, nothing else. You have to practice. Practice will improve your speed. Okay? How to write geography optional? We will discuss about that later. When to start answer writing practice? Once you have started your preparation and you have thoroughly prepared at least one subject, then start writing on that. Okay? But not immediately before, in a way, reading a particular chapter, you are starting writing. Before completing a particular book, you have already started writing practice. That will not give quality answer output. Okay? So that's why you should be practicing. After initial particular number of hours, number of chapters, number of subjects you have covered, then start writing practice. For example, what I would suggest you all is that about 1 or 2 months after you have started thoroughly preparing for a particular subject, then start writing and then keep on writing for all these subjects for that matter. Okay? Now, use of diagrams or flowcharts. If you are using diagrams or flowcharts in our answers, make it a point that we are not overdoing it. We should be trying to use diagrams or flowcharts wherever it is possible, but it is not remember that it is not the paper of drawing. Many students end up writing or making diagrams only for all different answers. That is not going to help you. Okay? What you have to do is that wherever it is good, for example, now Animesh Pradhan's example again, he was writing a question on corporate governance. Okay? So taking a balanced approach in meeting triple bottom line. So he wanted to explain what is triple bottom line. So instead of writing an explanation, a triple bottom line is balancing between people, planet and profit. These 3 P's we have to balance. So instead of writing this entire statement, if we are making a diagram, easy to understand, just after seeing it, we will be able to know what it is, triple bottom line approach. So try to make it simplified for the examiner to read. On those occasions only, write that into diagrammatic format. Don't end up making too many diagrams as well, is what I'm trying to convey over here. Okay? Vaibhav Gondane, for example, Among many novel methods and themes, the Swadeshi movement laid a great emphasis not only on boycott but also on self-reliance. Discuss. Okay? So he was probably not having too much content on this particular point. Someone was saying something. If someone has any doubt, please make it a point that you are mentioning that particular doubt in the message box over here. Okay? So he only knew Swadeshi movement that he had to refer to. So Swadeshi movement, he just tried to draw the diagram. Okay? Swadeshi movement, the origin of Swadeshi movement was in this partition of Bengal. All of you have studied somewhere in the history partition of Bengal, you know about it. Okay? What he has done simply, he wanted to mention this partition of Bengal, he had drawn a simple map. Now see how simple map he has drawn over here. It is just a triangle that he has drawn, which is showing south part of India. Now he has shown over here north and northeast part of India by just drawing it an arc like that. But it is showing that this is part of West Bengal, this is East Bengal, etc., etc. No need to be entirely beautifully drawing a particular diagram, etc., etc. Even if it is making a point, it is able to show that it is India. Write that. Don't hesitate. Okay? Getting the point?